Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Talking Grit is brought to you by the Monroe County Reporters, Monroe's top news source for police, fire, and community events.
Post 3, Depot Street, truck boy intercept.
Follow them on Facebook, and for $2.99 a month, you can become a subscriber and get the news you crave even faster.
Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Talking Grit. Jacob and I have fully recovered from our near heart attacks on Sunday, and we are ready for another game. This time, the Jacksonville Jaguars are coming to town. Usually, we would invite someone who covers a team to join us, but apparently, they're a little too scared to join us, so we are lucky enough that Morgan Cannon from the Pride of Detroit was free to talk to us. Morgan does a ton of film study, so he's definitely going to add the insight that we need to diagnose this team. And we're lucky enough he's going to join us for the full episode, so that I'm really happy for that. So welcome, Morgan. How have you been?
Good, guys. I can't complain, Rattled off, 7 straight wins now. You're kind of, we're at I hate that it's where the lines are 8-1, so you're at the halfway point, but it's not even in my head, and it bothers me, with the 17 games now.
Yes.
But, at the halfway mark and sitting in a good spot, man, you just need to, we were talking about it before we got on. It's week to week, the team is definitely, one game at a time, but us as fans, it's nice to be able to look forward a little bit and be like, okay, when can we start thinking we could maybe lock down the 1 seed? That's fun to think about.
It's an amazing thing to think about. I love it. Just 2 short years away from, barely missing the playoffs to, hey, when are we going to lock down the number 1 seed?
It's November, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Right. Feeling that we aren't used to.
Yes. And I don't want to, I'd like to get used to the feeling, but Morgan said off camera beforehand, we don't want to get complacent. We want to be able to appreciate all this. Before we moved on to the Jaguars, Morgan, I got a couple questions for you. The first one is for an away game, because I know you have season tickets, so I know what you're doing during, the home games. But for an away game, how do you prefer to watch the game? Are you by yourself? Or you got family and friends? What are you doing?
Typically, we have a couple people we'll watch games with. I'm particular if I go to a bar, it's only one of a few in Detroit, Detroiter. I really like in Bricktown right there by the People Mover station or whatever. But usually at home, me and my girlfriend were just at home watching the Sunday night game, sweating it out, with the animals, just chilling in a dark room. That's typically, I've gotten way more loose watching with her, with what I'll do. Because back in the day, man, I had to be in a vacuum almost. I was way worse than I am now. So we've definitely loosened up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm in a similar situation. I've let my kids join in. Before my kids got old enough to enjoy the game, it was just me and my wife as walking around the house. She wasn't interested at the time. Now that she's got season tickets, she's keyed in too, and we're all watching it together. But yeah, I kind of like to be in a vacuum too, and just diagnose everything and sit there, enjoy it, and yell at the TV.
I have to be ultra focused. I can't have, for the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl parties and stuff like that. Even obviously we haven't even been there. There very few times do I like going to Super Bowl parties because everyone talks and everyone wants to see the commercials and the food and stuff. And I can't hear or focus on the game. I'm here for the football, guys.
No, I feel you. I'm the same way. If the Lions were to ever play in that game, I still don't know how it wouldn't be a party. I don't know. We'd have to have some discussions for sure.
Yeah, it's good to have that discussion. What would we do if we got in the Super Bowl? I know the NFC Championship game, it was with my family, and my son had a friend over, and that was about the extent of the extra people we were letting over.
Yep,
so
gotta keep it tight.
Jacob and I had an interesting question that came up on the last podcast, Morgan, and I want to know your opinion about it. It was my opinion that the Texans were the best defense that we had faced. I don't think Jacob was as sure. What are your thoughts about the defense that we faced? Do you think it was the best the Lions have faced this year, or would you pick someone else?
So me and Miko Scott, my colleague at POD, We were talking about that on our YouTube video. I would say yes. I would not. I know everyone's really high on Minnesota right now, and it's a good defense. It's a well-coached defense under Brian Flores. They fly around. They do a lot of interesting things. But man, like Houston is the best pass rush unit in football by like a couple of different metrics. And to me, that's what really can throw a wrench, like obviously into a game plan, right? Like as we saw with the Lions. So, and imagine if they get Will Anderson back, because Daniil Hunter's still a problem. We saw that. Right? Like he beat Penei Sewell clean, which happens like once in like every 7 blue moons, right? Like it never happens. Yeah, it's just, they're tough to tough matchup to deal with. And Petrie was playing out of his mind. He was making me mad, man. He was causing all kinds of problems off the edge there. So I think they're right there with, like, I would understand if people want to argue Minnesota. It's a really good unit. But in my opinion, Houston has more impact players. Like, whereas Minnesota is playing like a really cohesive, like well-coached, just defense. Whereas I feel like Houston's got some dudes, man. You look at up and down that Derek Stingley, Petrie, like we talked about. It's a good team. But I feel Jake. Who would you say, Jacob?
I had said the Vikings. I thought the Vikings were tougher. I mean, it was hard because it was right after the game and you got the whole 5 interception thing and everything like that. But, yeah, I still thought the Vikings, the Vikings didn't have their green dot linebacker when we played them either.
Good point.
Based on how the games went, obviously it looked like the Texans were much better defense, but I still think that Minnesota is better.
My question, I guess, is more directed to like, which is the better defense against the Lions? And I really think that the Texans match up better against the Lions. It seems like the experience on the offensive line for the Lions doesn't get as rattled with the Brian Flores throwing everybody up at the line of scrimmage. They could diagnose that pretty well, and they can limit the pressure. Because, I mean, we talked about it after the Vikings game. They put another 30 on Flores, and at that time, Flores had only given up 4 30-point games, and the Lions were 3 of them. So I just feel like, against another team or inexperienced offensive line or inexperienced quarterback, Brian Flores is probably, that's a tough defense just because, like you said, they play so well. They do play as a team, and you just don't know who's going to rush. Whereas I thought the Texans linebackers really made the difference in the run game. They were flying up to the ball, and it wasn't until the end where Ben Johnson started throwing some misdirection in there, and their keys were off, and they were running gaps that we weren't running towards, and Gibbs would run to the outside and get to the outside in Montgomery too. So sometimes I think it's just a matchup issue, and that's why I think the Texans come in and we didn't even face them with, like you said, Will Anderson, who might be their best pass rusher.
Right.
It'd be interesting if you play that game again. I mean, we also didn't have Decker too, right? I mean, we didn't have our left tackle, and we had Skipper over there who
doing his best, but that's tough to ask Dan Skipper to block Daniil Hunter, man. That's a tough ask. But yeah, Al Shazier, I hope I'm saying his name right. He was playing out of his dang mind. Like you said, I do feel you there, Jason. Like they do match up well because you got Petrie for Saint, you got Stingley for JMO, and so on and so forth. So, and it's a D'Amico Ryan. Like that very much feels like a D'Amico Ryan's coach defense. Like it makes me think of those San Francisco defenses when they all coach there and everything. And yeah, them dudes fly around. I'll give them that. I wouldn't be, opposed to the Minnesota argument either, especially if they got their Mike back and, Flores, he got them playing too, for sure.
The thing that the Texans got is they could get pressure with just 4. And when you could do that and then you drop you drop 7 back, that's your best case scenario against the Lions. I mean, the Lions could attack you in so many different ways. So, I mean, to beat them, you're going to have to rattle Goff with 4 because you start sending blitzes. Goff knows exactly where to go with the ball. He's going to get it out in a timely fashion. So I think that you have to be able to do that to have any chance against this offense.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right, Jacob. Let's move on to the team that we're going to face this upcoming Sunday. Let's talk about the impact players. I'm going to hit it to you for the offensive players from Jaguars.
Here we go. Impact players on offense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Pro Football Focus ranks him as the number 10 quarterback out of 40. He was NFL top 100, number 94 overall. He actually is injured. They've already said today that he's not even going to be playing in the game. So one impact player we don't have to worry about. Moving on, Evan Ingram, tight end, ranked number 9 out of 71. Rookie wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr., he's actually ranked number 20 in the league right now. Running back Tank Bigsby is ranked number 21, and then the running back Travis Etienne is ranked 54. How are you feeling about their offensive impact players, Jason? Who concerns you the most?
Out of, who's remaining on there, Brian Thomas Jr. definitely, because, he's got, out of the rookie class, he's the one that's probably been the most dangerous so far this year. They're going to be limited so much by having Mac Jones back there. So I think that might neutralize that. But, you're talking about a team that has nothing to lose, right? The Jaguars have nothing to lose with their record. So they can throw it up to Brian Thomas. They throw a pick. It doesn't really matter. So Doug Peterson's going to be aggressive. So you got to be worried about that. And Travis Etienne he's just dangerous because he's kind of like a Gibbs. He could have, if he gets out in the open, he's dangerous. His hands are not good. Like as far as like fumbling the ball, I can always count on him having a fumble. So I think if he gets a secondary, Brian Branch will be ready to punch one out. But those are the two that I would think would be the most dangerous. What about you, Jacob?
Oh yeah, definitely the same. I also, Evan Ingram is kind of a wild card. He's really good as a receiver, especially having Mac Jones back there trying to get rid of the ball quick. I don't want a situation where we have to rely on Anzalone to cover Evan Ingram multiple times during the game. So, if that's a matchup that we're trying to use, that's something that they could exploit.
What do you think, Morgan, out of there?
I think I took the idea right out of my head, Jacob. Evan Ingram is a matchup problem, to be honest with you. So, but now that Jack Campbell is playing like one of the best linebackers in football, that's one kind of player that I feel like a little less anxiety about, just because, shoot, man, Jack's 6'5", 250, can run. He had that PBU last week in week 10 against Houston. That was just an impressive play. He's getting downhill and fitting really well. So I feel good about him. I'm right there with you for like the way I look at this game. Defensively, they have some players up front. I know we're going to get to that, but they're abysmal, to be honest with you. They're like 31st in both DVOA and EPA per play. So like two pretty reliable advanced metrics showing that they are bad. Offensively, they're like 16th in DVOA, and it's a competent unit, more so when it's probably ran by Trevor Lawrence. I know he wasn't playing like everyone wants him to play, but he's a heck of a lot better than Mac Jones is still, with respect. I don't really like Mac Jones for a bunch of reasons, but I hope the Lions can get after him. But yeah, they have a tough time. When I looked at their film with Mac Jones, they have a tough time stringing anything together, like of consistency, right? Like the 8 to 10 play drives for Jacksonville. That's good. That's a tall task. However, if he can throw a layup, like Brian Thomas Jr., it's a busted coverage, and they can do some stuff like that because Mac Jones is still a professional quarterback and he can throw the football. And Brian Thomas Jr. has that speed where he can take the top off the defense. And that's, to me, is like the way that Jacksonville could hang around this game a little bit, stuff like that, getting some easy layups whether it's busted coverage or someone just gets burnt, something like that.
Or a PI, right? Get a pass interference, throw it up, hope that Terrion's not looking at the ball and, does this thing, and that's, that might be their game plan, I know that teams are attacking Terrion hoping that they get a PA. That's just a game plan right now.
Yeah, he's getting better. It looks like it to me. Like when I look at him, it's getting less. I wouldn't have called that DPI last week. I know he was early, but that's a bang play. People aren't, not going to get that call most of the time. So,
Jacob, you want to go on the defense, or you want me to do that?
You can go ahead.
You did that because of you're going to make me say Foye Olulukan.
Nice job.
I'm pretty close.
You butchered that.
I did. I looked up at YouTube. I was like, I'm going to study this one because Jacob's going to make me say it. But
I know how to say his last name. I don't know the first name.
Is it Olulukan? Is that right?
Yep.
Olulukan.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. And so, and I don't know how to say his full first name, but Foye is what I'm going to go with. I think that's good enough.
That's good.
So he's linebacker. He's 11 out of 83 PFF ranked. And their other linebacker, Devin Lloyd, is 10 of 83. So, highly rated linebacker unit there. Their other two players are their edge players. Josh Hines-Allen, He's 12 rated on PFF. He was NFL top 100, ranked number 35. And Trayvon Walker, which we all are very familiar with him because we ended up with Hutch because of this guy. He's rated 47th in the edge. Trayvon leads their team with 7.5 sacks. He's second in pressures with 38. Josh Hines Allen gets more pressures, but he's resulted in a little less sacks, 42 pressures and 5 sacks. But they account for, I think, over half the team's pressures. No one else is really generating any pressure on that line. So that's what you got to worry about. So, Morgan, when you look at those defensive players or anybody else that we didn't mention, what concerns you?
So we mentioned their defense having a lot of issues, and a lot of that, to be honest, is attributed to their secondary. It's just they're not playing well right now, to put it, nicely. But they do got, like y'all said, they got players in their front seven, right? Like Devin Lloyd and Luakon. You can really you can do a lot worse than them as your off-ball linebackers and like a base nickel set. And I like the way Josh Hines Allen's been doing this for a long time. I wanted him in the TJ Hawkinson draft. He almost spelled the Lions. You're so close. Trayvon Walker's putting it together though. Like there was a rep that I broke down with Miko where he hit a little Euro step, got his hands into the offensive tackle and then worked right into a rip. So he's starting to be able to chain together moves and become a competent pass rusher, because really he was drafted off, a lot of traits and, measurables, and he's putting it together, which is nice to see, because it's tough over there right now, man, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So this is where I think if the Lions, and I would have to be nervous if I was a Jags fan and I watched the Dan Campbell presser, because Campbell is talking about how he wants to, get back to being efficient, and the offense is coming off this not good day in Houston. If I'm Jacksonville hearing that, I'm like, dang, this is probably not going to be good for us, man.
Yes. Right.
It's gas pedal, foot down is what it's going to be. That's just, I'm right with Dan Campbell. When he said that, that's yes, that's what our offense needs to get back to, is just consistent drives and, running the ball, getting to third and short. And Texans were good at making us go a little bit longer than we wanted to on third down. They were stopping us on the first down runs more consistently than any other team. It seemed like if we were getting a good first down run, we were getting a first down with that run. And then we started the next first down and then get stopped for a 1 or 2 yard gain. And then, Goff was clearly rattled in that game, because not only it's the interceptions are one thing, it was the balls in the ground and just generally looking uncomfortable. And so that was more bothersome than the interceptions to me.
Yeah.
But, all right, Jacob. So Jaguars are 2-8. They're last in the AFC South. Their only wins have come versus the Colts and the Patriots. But they took the Packers to the wire.
Yeah, if you look up and down, so many of these are one possession games, though. It's not like they're getting blown away.
Yeah.
But until now they got Mac Jones. So I think that's really going to be.
Well, even last week, Mac Jones against the Vikings, they had one touchdown, but their defense kept them in that game.
True. I think the Vikings are on a doubt. I'm not even being a hater, though. I think the jig is up with Darnold. No, I'm sorry to first Viking. There's a reason everyone didn't think the Vikings were going to be good at the beginning of this year. The defense buoyed them for a little bit. But, I think the jig is up there.
Jacob, injury report time. We already mentioned Trevor Lawrence. Who else? Well, the Jaguars list is extensive. Again,
there was even some players on here that I did not put just because it was so long. So Trevor Lawrence, we talked about, he's already been ruled out. Tank Bigsby reported did not practice. This is the projected report. Then the rest of these guys are all starters. So wide receiver Brian Thomas was limited. Cornerback Tyson Campbell was limited. Their offensive lineman Ezra Cleveland, he was limited. He actually hasn't played the last couple of games. I haven't heard whether he is expected to play or not. Wide receiver Gabe Davis, offensive lineman Blake Hance. I'm not sure if that's how you say that. Defensive end Josh Hines Allen, offensive lineman Brandon Scherf. They were all listed as limited participants. They do have a bye week coming up next week. I think that had a lot to do with them just playing it safe with Trevor Lawrence. You got to wonder how many of these other guys are going to play it safe with if they're really banged up and just kind of let this one go and sit them out. But they need all these guys to compete. So, they're in trouble if these guys don't play.
The Lions list, however, is not as extensive. So we are, either we got guys on the IR like Hutch, that aren't going to play, but most of our guys are starting to come back. Taylor Decker practiced today. He was limited. Sounded like from the press conference today that Dan Campbell was pretty confident that he would come back. So hopefully he's back for this game. Malcolm Rodriguez practiced, limited practice. So that's a good sign that maybe he's going to come back. Sam Laporta did not practice. I would be shocked if he plays in this game, just because I guess the report was he was in a sling after the game. Dan Campbell said day-to-day, so I don't think there's going to be an IR stint. Hopefully there's not, but I'd be shocked if they're going to put him in this game. Za'Darius Smith practiced in full. We're going to see his debut this week. And Morgan, when we get later on, I want to get your opinion on him. And then Emmanuel Mosley practiced full. Iffy practiced full. Broderick Martin practiced full. They're all on the IR still, but they could be brought back at any point. This is Broderick's last week, I think. So they're going to have a decision on him pretty quick, I think.
Correct.
Iffy and Emmanuel, I think they're going to use the full 21-day clock. There's no hurry to get those guys back. Out of those three players that I just mentioned, Mosley is the one that I'm the most interested in seeing back, because I think he can have a good impact, because he might come back as our nickel cornerback. I really could see that. What do you think about that, Morgan? What do you think about him? Because that would be Amik's job. So what do you think about Amik, how he's doing, and Emmanuel's place on the team?
I thought Amik's played really well, to be honest. He's a competitor. He tackles. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. I think Aaron Glenn really likes him. But yeah, they're all about competition. So Mosley could definitely push for some nickel reps. And then honestly, it's just depth. Because Amik can play outside, you still have Ennis Rakestraw, get Iffy back. And that's in my opinion, like a chess piece for different matchups that you can use in certain personnel and packages, depending on who you're playing. Iffy would be, good to deal with Evan Ingram, for instance, if the Lions didn't have Jack Campbell. This team's so good. This is so fun to talk about. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's a good spot to be in, to have those guys coming back around this time. Hopefully everyone can get back to full strength and you have everything going on,
Yeah, I'm curious how they're going to manage Iffy, as far as where are they going to put him on the field, because it's almost seemed like he's going to play either nickel or almost like a pseudo linebacker, and we'd be able to blitz him off the edge, because he showed us in the last half of last year that he could do that with some consistency. So I'm hoping that he could provide some pressure on the quarterback, because without Hutch, we've had to generate our pass rush through blitz.
Yeah.
All right.
I can't wait to get Iffy back.
Yeah, he's gonna be just like last year. Just come back for the last 6 games,
right?
And light it on fire, right? All right, Jacob. Jags offensive rankings before we get into the questions of the day. Where are they ranked?
Offensive rankings. Pro Football Focus has them rated right now as the 21st ranked offense in the league. In terms of points per game, they are ranked 21st in points per game. Total yards per game, they are 25th. And that breaks down passing yards per game, they are 23rd. Rushing yards per game, they are 25th. So, towards the bottom of the league in offense on here, as far as yards per game go.
Yep. And the Jags defensive rankings, Pro Football Focus have them 19th. Points per game, 27th. Yards per game, 32nd. Passing yards per game, 30th. Rushing yards per game, 21st. Pretty dismal ranking on there, and you're going to have probably, if not the best offenses, one of the best offenses in the league is going against that. Sometimes these things happen, and it's a closer game than what you expect, but I don't expect that, especially after what you said, Morgan. Dan Campbell's comments about being inefficient. Usually, when Dan Campbell challenges his team to something, they perform.
That's where I'm at, because they've had a couple. They had that last week. That was rough. I mean, before that, it was 4 to 5 weeks of a historic clip, to be honest with you, with Goff and the offense. So I do think sometimes this fan base is starting to split hairs, getting spoiled pretty quickly, but that's what happens. So yeah, it's a tough matchup, man, if you're Jacksonville. And I hope this happens, because it's just a better case for the Lions. But when teams are in this, they're banged up, they're 2-8. They're wondering if the head coach is going to be fired. You get down 28-0 quickly in Ford Field. It would be pretty easy to just lie down because you're like, you know what, we're getting our faces kicked in. I'm not really trying to put it's a tough situation. We've been there as fans, So I feel you guys. If any Jacksonville fans are listening to this, we feel for y'all. Hopefully it gets better. But if we're being honest, it's probably going to be a rough Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with that. So we kind of talked about the Lions wanting their offense to be more efficient. They've come out flat, really, to be honest with you, last week, and then the Vikings game kind of been a slow go at the beginning. Do you think that's a trend, Morgan, or what do you think's going on there? I mean, was it just coincidence, or do you see anything in the film that leads you to believe that this is fixable?
I mean, little execution things here and there, like you can clean up. But Dan Campbell said something else today that stuck in my head. It was they're going to get every team's best shot now, right? Especially now, like it's solidified. So I think these teams are coming out with their hair on fire. Like Houston was just coming off. Who did they lose to? It was someone pretty embarrassing.
The Texans. They lost to the Jets.
There you go.
Is that what you're
exactly? So they were coming off that. They have the best team in football coming to town on prime time. They were ready to go. They were running around with their hair on fire, making plays. But yeah, I think that's what a lot of it is, because then like even that game, right? Houston's a physical defense and a good one. We just talked about it, but that after a while, the Lions, I do think that like they started to like just their physicality took its toll because Jameer kept getting the edge and you're like, okay, 12 yards, 20 yards, 15 yards, like dang. Whereas it wasn't happening earlier. They were doing really well against the run, like we talked about, and then it all came crumbling down. So for a Jags team that's just not particularly good on the defensive side of the ball, like anywhere, it's a tall task.
I agree. All right, we're going to go to our defense. This is the question I've been waiting to ask you. How excited are you for Za'Darius Smith, and what are your expectations for him?
I'm excited because they've done a good job. I know people don't want to hear this, right? Like we lost Hutchinson. Hutchinson was robbed of like probably a historical year too, man. Like I'm still sad about that when I stop and think about it, just because he was just operating at such a crazy clip. But getting Za'Darius will be back. Like getting him back will be, getting him in the fold, not back, will be huge because you're just adding another big, freaky, physical guy to this front, right? Like you think of your base defense a lot of the time now, and it'll be Paschal and Za'Darius at the edge, and then Aleem and a combination of like DJ Reader or Levi Onwuzurike. That's tough, man. Like that's going to be, that's why it's so hard to run against the Lions. You have all those guys occupying blocks and space, and then you have guys like Campbell and Anzalone getting downhill and filling. And that's what did Joe Mixon have? It was like 25 for 46 yards, something stupid.
Yeah.
I give them credit to sticking to it, man, because that is abysmal. What is that, like 1.8?
It was 1.8 yards per carry. Yep. And that was the key to victory, right? I mean, just shut him down because, he's kind of like David Montgomery. He'll deliver punishment and then just keep going yards after contact. But Jacob and I talked about it. As soon as he was made contact, he didn't go much further.
He's getting mad too. Which is funny.
Yeah. Breaking tablets, right?
But and then against the pass, Za'Darius, when you watch him, I remember like his time in Baltimore and then Green Bay and Minnesota. Strong, like big physical frame, heavy hands. Like he's got some thunder in his hands. I think Decker said that today. I was listening to their to the audio on the way home from like their presser from work, and he said that. He said really violent hands. So it's a needed presence on the edge right now, just to get going into like the heart of the schedule, like December, January football. He's going to be able to win one-on-ones pretty quickly, off the edge, and that's something that the Lions. Well, James Houston won some. Let me shut up. He won some pretty quickly against Houston, so that was nice to see. But yeah, what do you guys think? Are you guys pretty excited?
I'm excited for the whole person to be on the team, to be honest with you. I love his personality. I know it's been all over social media, the Rasheed Wallace comparison, and it just feels like it just feels like that energy, right? I mean, just I love it. It's rare that you could add someone, especially mid-season, that just fits everything that you need. You needed an edge person. You need a guy to set the edge. He's got the personality, the work ethic, and all that stuff. Just it it rarely all comes together. Usually, when you're getting someone at the trade deadline, you're just you're just whatever's available, right? And then somehow this key that fits a lock that we have we got it. So, and for relatively cheap too. So I was super happy about it. I'll be really happy to see him play. He just another, we've said it many times on here. We don't need him to replace Hutch. He just needs to come in and provide another rotational piece, and he'll do his job.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's going to fit right in. I mean, he's going to, we'll forget that he wasn't on the team at the beginning of the season in a couple weeks here, and he's going to help everyone around him be better too. So definitely excited about it.
He was already helping when he was off. I mean, he's been with the team for 4 days and he's over there coaching them up. I mean, that's the veteran guy that we needed and wanted. I mean, you have Reeder in the inside that provides the same thing to Aleem. Pascal kick over or whatever. He's, Reeder provided that early on, and Za'Darius comes in and doing this veteran thing too. And Tony Dungy was super impressed. And when I respect Tony Dungy a lot, I think he's very smart. I think he's level headed. I just like him as a coach and as a person. So when he was, saying those glowing things about Za'Darius, it just made me even more excited. All right. So Za'Darius is in the fold. Is he getting a sack this week, Morgan?
I hope so. He'd be excited. I know, but I'm excited for him for his first game to be at home too. Because I think that's going to be. I'm sure the team's telling him like, "Yo, you're about to. This is going to be fun." Because I don't know. I guess he was here last year, at least one of when he was with Minnesota. So he heard that volume last year, but it's different when that you're on defense and you're able to get a good jump because the offense is on a silent count, which everyone is on a silent count in Ford Field 100% of the time. You can't not be on the silent count. So I'm going to go with, I think because that'll be pretty cool too. That'll be a cool moment. I'm sure he'll be hyped. What do y'all think?
I'd love it. Well, you'll be there, right, Morgan? I'll be there. I'm hoping they announce the defense, when they come out the tunnel, because that would be, he'll get a nice reception, and I think they'll set that up. And if he gets a sack, oh my God, it's gonna be super.
I think it is defense too. I don't know why my brain remembers that, but it was offense last home game. I remember that much.
Do they flip flop or do they call? Do you know? I mean, do they always just flip flop?
Typically.
Or is it
typically they do, and then sometimes I don't know, one game randomly they did the trenches, like they did O-line, D-line. I think Dan Campbell just messes with it. So to our point earlier though, it could be offense, right? He wants them to, it's like, hey, it's time to go. So because the defense has been bubbling.
Well, they need to do special teams.
Man, let Jack Fox run out there, Hogan Haddon,
Yeah, Jake Bates. I mean, wouldn't this be the perfect
Why not?
to do it? Because he's, he just kicked those, razor thin margin kicks. So just do spell. I'm kind of surprised that actually hasn't happened. As much as Dan Campbell talks about that being an equal part of the team, they haven't done that. That would be cool. Crowd go crazy.
That would be cool, Bates. Man. Let Skipper run out. I don't know, like the whole field goal protection unit. That'd be fun. Have fun with it.
Get some guys that don't normally get their name called out. Get some recognition.
For it.
All right, we're petitioning now. Morgan, Pride of Detroit and Talking Grit will go together and try to get them to announce special teams.
Let Dave Phibb run out too.
That'll be our call to action. Yep. Yeah, I love Dave Phibb. His interviews are just...
Yes, I would. Yeah, I'd love to play for that man because I guarantee you he has them laughing all the time. Just one of those coaches.
Yep. Yeah, and you talk about accountability. He just, he doesn't throw anybody under the bus. If there's something wrong, he takes full ownership of it. And he said, "That's, just love it. I love the whole coaching staff, and he's perfect fit. It's amazing that he fell into our laps. Leaving the Eagles and falling right to the
That
line.
Dan Campbell magnetism, man.
All right. It is.
Yeah.
I know. And no one wants to leave it either. And I'm all for
Mhm.
that too. Keep them all together. Although I think it's going to be tough after this season. The Saints job being
Exactly.
open.
We might.
As a Bears job.
I hear you. We might have to save that for an off-season pod though, because part of me, like, hey, as y'all know, if you don't know, there's no salary cap for coaches. So part of me is like, I don't know, does Ben Johnson want to be a head coach? Part of like some in the back of my mind. I know it's probably a stupid thought. Probably just waiting for the right.
Well, no, but I mean, do you want to go, to Chicago where you don't have a very good chance of success? Like, I mean, that was the deal last year, right? Nothing interested him enough to leave the situation he was currently in.
Yeah.
So it's like, if the perfect spot's not there for him, then why,
I agree. And I'm sure Sheila,
I was just going to say, I think a lot of it is unfinished business. I think if we start winning titles, then it's like, well, now I need to put my stamp on something else. I think that's, if we get close to the NFC Championship game again, I don't know. Unless a perfect situation comes up, I think, Aaron Glenn I see leaving before Ben Johnson, to be honest.
I'm there with you too.
Yeah. The opportunity presents it.
I don't think he's going to be as picky because I think Aaron Glenn is like a program builder, like similar, akin to Dan Campbell. Like, I think if right situation, ownership's behind him, they let him, do his thing and get a good GM. I think Aaron Glenn can be really successful. I think Ben Johnson could be too. I just think it's going to be right situation, right fit. Because like you said, I don't think he's just going to go anywhere, unless someone like, I don't know. Then I think about the Jags. Like if they fire Doug Peterson, this owner has a lot of money. So who's to say he doesn't just break Ben Johnson off and make him the most highest paid coach, something stupid like that. So I try to never say never because you just end up looking dumb.
Yeah. No, it's all about odds, but I'd rather see those guys go to the AFC than
Me
especially
too, man.
Chicago.
Get the heck
I
out
don't
of the
want
conference. No.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think Ben Johnson wants that. I don't want to play Dan Campbell. Like, you work under this man this whole time and you know what a psycho he is, like in a good way. You don't want to play him 2 times a year. I wouldn't. I'm like, I'm going to go to like the AFC South or something far away.
Get far away from Dan Campbell. That's right. All right. Let's get back to let's talk about the Jags a little bit here. If you're the Jags, are you worried about investing in Trevor Lawrence? Like, are you, you spent all that money with that? Have you hit any part of you that thinks, oh man, I don't know, or where are you at with that, Morgan?
Man, like one thing I try to not like parse words about is just like evaluating quarterback play, right? Because a couple years ago, a lot of smart people were like, oh, he's the surest quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, all this stuff. And I don't think he's been bad. Like we broke down and played. He dropped a ball into a bucket, like 60 yards, like air travel to Brian Thomas Jr. But he does turn the ball over a lot. And then he's, gets sacked quite a bit and takes these hits. So at the same time, it's like, what's better out there? Like, yeah, you could get lucky and get a player, but then you could be unlucky. Like everyone was really sure about this Caleb Williams kid in Chicago. And now everyone's got their pitchforks out already halfway through the season. So it's almost like, do you just take what you know? Because I do think with the right scheme and you get him back to where he needs to be, Trevor Lawrence can be on the same tier as like a Jared Goff is now, or, someone along those lines, like like a competent quarterback that you can win a Super Bowl with. Right. Cause he's got all the tools and he's mobile. Seems like a good dude. So I don't know. What do y'all think though? I think if you could get something for him like if we're doing the counterpoint, if you traded him this offseason and you really wanted to do a clean rebuild, then you could get some capital. I don't know that you get a ton, but you could get something.
Yeah, I just think you're so stuck with those quarterbacks as far as investing with them. I always think, you have to pay the guy because, like you said, what's your alternative? You're going to go in with Mac Jones, or you're going to go that route. You see what the Vikings did; they got Sam Darnold, right? And he came out good, but I think we're really seeing the real Sam Darnold.
Last couple games.
So I think you're stuck. It's just hard when you get he's probably a mid-tier quarterback in my opinion. As far as what he's played so far, I think he could be better, but the turnovers are worrisome. And he's had talent around him. He's had some good. Christian Kirk is good. he had Calvin Ridley last year? Was that his? Yeah, so he had
Yep.
Calvin Ridley last year. So it's not like he's talent deficient. He just hasn't developed, I think, as much as everybody thought when he came out to the draft. So that'd be my concerns. But you're kind of stuck at quarterback. What's your thoughts, Jacob?
I mean, I think he's a capable quarterback. I mean, he showed upside. He definitely has the potential and everything there. I don't know if Urban Meyer just set him back a little bit.
Good point. That's a good point.
He's already had to deal with the different coaching staffs and everything like that. So, I mean, I guess, it's just hard to adjust to. He also, because he was drafted so high, and like Morgan said, the next Andrew Luck and everything, the pressure has just been sky high. And, even when he has decent games, he seems to kind of shoulder a lot of the blame for when they're not winning.
Yeah. Like, remember,
so, I mean, they didn't have a choice but to pay him, really. I mean, you have to, there's nobody else out there that's going to do better. And I know the owner thought that they were going to be competing. So you can't start another rebuild and draft another quarterback or try to go with a Mac Jones or a mid-level. I mean, the ball was in Trevor Lawrence's court. They really had no option but to pay him.
Yeah, you're kind of hamstrung. That's a good point. Because if you don't, then you miss. Then you just look like an idiot. Like, if it gets worse,
right.
Easily, like, who said that? Was it Dan Campbell or Brad Holmes last offseason? It's really easy to get worse at quarterback. And that has stuck with me because I've been on this tip ever since I got a little bit older. Right? When you're young, you think you know it all. But I feel like in my late 20s, early 30s, I'm like, I don't know anything about quarterbacks, man. No one does. Okay. Like, look at, we keep getting it wrong. The hit rate is terrible. So
right.
Yeah, I think I think Jacob's 100% right. I think you pay him and then you try to build the team around it.
Yeah. Jared Goff's been discarded and, see what he's turned into, and sometimes it's about getting these guys in the right situation. Caleb Williams that you mentioned is in a terrible situation in Chicago. The expectations are super high and they can't protect the kid. So it's,
I don't know why they thought that was the solution. In my opinion, I would rather keep the kid upright and have so-so receivers than be like, oh, look at these awesome receivers. And then we can't protect anybody. And he's developing bad habits. Because in my opinion, now he's like, when you turn on the film, you watch some of these quarterback gurus break down his stuff. He looks like he's seeing ghosts and he's like bracing for a hit that sometimes isn't even coming. He'll be in a clean pocket, off time, off platform. And it's bad.
Yeah. Imaginary pressure.
I'll never understand the Odunze pick. You already had a pretty good wide receiver room, and then you could have added a top offensive lineman there, and then you go for the shiny toy. And as a Lions fan, we've been there, right? We've gotten the shiny toy a lot of times, and then Stafford's getting sacked 60 times a season and can't get the ball out to him.
Yeah, got to protect first, man. I think more and more people should be trying to follow the Lions blueprint, right? Like, trenches first. Fast guys are fun, but none of it matters if your quarterback's flat on his butt most of the game. So
that's correct. But it also takes some talent to get the right guys.
True.
If anything, our last team. Yeah, and you look, if there's anything Bob Quinn did, he got some offensive linemen in here. And, so Brad Holmes is talent deficient as this roster was. He did have a nice starting offensive line. And then, he drafts Sewell in his first draft and
away you go.
Generational talent, and so, I really feel like the Lions are going to have to, their plan of drafting late offensive linemen. I hope that works out. But if it doesn't, like if Mahogany doesn't develop, if Sorzell doesn't develop, if Manu doesn't develop like they think, they're going to have to draft some higher, especially in the guard position. We're going to need some people that step up pretty soon. Glasgow probably hasn't looked as good as he did last year. And Zeitler, is 35 years old. So we might be able to get him for another season, but I don't know how long, we can count on him if we resign him back.
Yeah, I'd like to keep Zeitler in the fold. For sure. I'm right there with you. For at least one more year, just because he's played well. And he looks good next to Sewell being another masher.
Yes. No, I'm with you on that. But you got to develop the guys behind it. And then, hopefully, as you get 35, 36, your injury risk goes up a lot.
True.
All right. My last question on the Jags. before we get to what Jacob's going to talk about is if the Jags lose tomorrow, is Doug Peterson gone? Or I said tomorrow. I meant Sunday.
I wish tomorrow was Sunday. It depends on how badly. I think if they come out, like we mentioned earlier, like if it's the middle of the third quarter and it's 31-3 and it looks like your team is just absolutely quitting on you and their brain is already, at home, taking a shower and like back in Jacksonville, then yeah, like it might be time to go, because that's you're not getting ready to compete. But if they keep it close and for the most of the game and it's not terribly embarrassing, I would say they keep it going, because I don't know who they have waiting in the wings right now. Maybe they have someone they want to get a look at in terms of coaching. Doug Peterson's an okay coach by my book, but this is just the roster is not good right now,
Right.
Yes.
Just not getting it done.
No. Yeah, he thought they were going to turn. They made the playoffs a couple years ago, and you thought they're going to come in. I think they disappointed last year, and they're certainly disappointing this year.
Yeah.
And, that's always going to fall on the head coach and the GM. Those are the two guys that gets their heads cut off first.
That's a great point, too, because in 2022, people were like, oh, the Jags and the Lions are in similar situations. Remember the Jags came here and the Lions whipped their butts? And then, that's kind of hasn't been the same.
No.
Opposite trajectory.
Yeah. That was that the game, like right before half? I remember, I think Houston sacked Lawrence.
It looked bad.
It looked like Lawrence, I thought he had tore his knee.
Me
just
too.
the way he twisted. He came back and played the rest of the game, but man, I thought Lawrence was out just the way that happened. And it happened right before half, so we had to wait for the second half to see if he was coming back out. But
that was a brutal game. They whipped their butts, man. But that back then, like to y'all's point, they looked, I know that's 2 years ago now, but they looked like they were on the up and up. But then, yeah, it's kind of crash and burn since.
Yeah.
It has. All right. Jacob, since we couldn't get a writer to come on, just didn't work out. Jacob, we wanted to get the Jaguars' perspective. So Jacob went to Reddit, asked some questions, got some feedback. So Jacob, why don't you tell us what questions you asked, and we'll discuss that.
Yeah. First off, just want to thank everyone on the Jaguars Reddit that gave us input. I tried to include a quote from most of the people who commented first. I couldn't get everyone, and everything in here, but definitely appreciate it, because obviously we need the Jaguars' perspective on this. First one I'm going to start with was just because we just talked about it, but I asked, how many games does Doug Peterson need to win to still be the head coach next year? And then also let me say that some of these names on Reddit, as you guys know, are like really weird. Some are abbreviations and stuff like that. So if it is an abbreviation, or if it's something I don't know what it means, then, JC might have to cut these names out. All right. How many games does Doug Peterson need to win to still be the head coach next year? We have WW Cassidy says, hopefully it doesn't matter. The team needs a shakeup. I'd love to see Trent, Doug, and Press go. I think it's necessary at this point. BSBL guy says he's already gone. The owner just doesn't pull the trigger early. And then Lanky Carpenter says, Shad Khan said this team has the most talent he's ever seen a Jags team have, and we are 2-8. Doug's been gone for a while. It's just a matter of when. So the overall consensus among all of these guys, I don't think anyone had anything positive to say about Doug Peterson. Most of them are hoping that they get beat bad enough this week that they fire him and go into the bye week with a fresh coach and a new offensive system. So
That's tough.
And there's probably, 20, 25 people on here commenting, and they all kind of share the same idea about that. Next question I asked them, did they think that Trayvon Walker was the right choice over Aiden Hutchinson in the draft? And how do they feel about Trayvon now? So this one I was interested to see. Right. I want to see what they, So then first one, J Money Harrison says he was disappointed, wanted to draft Hutch, but at this point, I'm fine with Trayvon. He still has upside. Someone 5 Nax says, I like Trayvon Walker. I think he'll be a star. In my opinion, if the picks were switched and Walker went to Detroit, Hutch would still be everything we expect him to be, but Walker would be thriving and dominating more in Detroit with better development than he's gotten here. So overall consensus here is that actually most people were okay with picking Trayvon over Hutch. They still think potential for Trayvon Walker is sky high. There were a few people that said they wanted Hutch from the get-go, but most of them, I think, said they were okay with the Trayvon pick. But, a lot of them did admit that if Trayvon went to Detroit, he'd probably be playing better than he has in Jacksonville,
Definitely.
which I think is fair.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's fair and it's crazy. I love it. I love being on this end of it that, we could develop these players because it's not a coincidence that second and third years players are making huge jumps. It's
Right.
coaching.
Yes, absolutely.
And we as a Lions fan has not seen that. We get second round picks that are out of the league in 2-3 years. And now
They don't make it to their
huge.
next contract.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, what players are going to be the key to a Jaguars upset? West Dingo says everyone needs to play lights out for us to have a chance unless Goff has a repeat of last week. Username Please Jags says Jacksonville upset. That's funny. I love this team, but 0% chance to win without Trevor. And then Captain Brightside says if we win, it's because Tyson Campbell, Aluakon, Josh Allen, and Trayvon Walker have big days, and because Brian Thomas was able to be our entire offense. Seeing as y'all just had an ugly game against the Texans, I think this will be your get-right game. Overall consensus for most of them, a lot of them named defensive players. They think the defense is the key here. A few people said Mac Jones is going to have an amazing day for them to even have a chance, but most of them are not counting on that. Most of them said they need the defense to step it up and look kind of like how it did for the Vikings game, and then just, they get an extra touchdown that wins the game. Last, just general thoughts or consensus. King Cosmic Brownie says, Lions are my Super Bowl hopefuls. These are Jaguars fans. Super Saiyan T-Law. I like that username.
Me too.
Jags fans in general don't hate the Lions. We are cat bros, and we want Ben Johnson.
Hey, we did bring that up before.
Yeah, right. Fine Plant says, does anyone know if Blake Bortles is available to play quarterback?
Dang.
And then somebody named Muttley Laugh goes here, because I did make a point about the close games, and they said we've made games close late, but games have been very much been over when Doug turns the offense loose. When I watch most Jaguars games, it's, red zone and stuff like that, so I guess I don't know exactly how it's going. We all know the end result, the score, and, the stats sometimes tell a different story than what actually happened. So from Jaguars fans, they make it sound like they never had a chance. They're just making it close and making it a little more respectable. Honestly, a lot of love coming from the Jaguars fans, a lot of, Super Bowl wishes for us, and a lot of them are already just hoping for new coach, new GM, new system.
They're thinking about the draft, and we've been there many times, haven't we?
Exactly, right.
Analyzing draft picks.
Ben Johnson going to Jacksonville would be fine by me too. Shad Khan's not cheap. Hire a good GM and up and away. If Ben Johnson's going to leave, I'd rather him stay. But if he's going to leave, Jacksonville will be fine.
They've got some pieces there, so
Trevor
he's got some things to work with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I'm sure he could make a system work with Trevor Lawrence.
Definitely.
It's a pretty good talent. So
yeah.
All right, Jacob, is that everything from
that was it for Reddit.
All right.
Good
Well,
stuff.
thanks for welcoming our questions over at Jacksonville Jaguars Reddit. That's pretty nice of you guys.
Right.
Appreciate that. All right, we're gonna get to the meat of it here. Keys to victory. Start with you, Jacob. Why don't you hit us with your first key to victory in this game?
All right. Keys to victory. Going with offense first. So the Jaguars defense ranks dead last in total yards per game, 27th in points per game. If we stick to what we know and play our game, we're going to be just fine on offense. I do want to say that I think a key to this is getting Jared Goff going, letting him have a bounce back game. I know most of the time I say we need to, run, which I still think we need to run early, run often, but that's what works best for us. We use the running game, we open up the passing game. Make it easier on Jared Goff, make him run through his progressions, mix in some deeper shots, but just let him get comfortable back there again. We don't want to throw the ball 30 plus times, but I think Goff in the national media perspective, they kind of are crapping on him right now. So I think it would be better for him to have a bounce back game, and this is as good of time as any. So, just let it rip, let him throw 5 touchdowns.
Love it.
What about you, Morgan? What do you got?
don't allow any big plays. Like, no, play clean football on defense. I think the offense, it's just going to be a matter of time, to be honest, like, especially coming off that game in Houston, like we talked about. But on defense, just no cheap stuff. If they're going to move the ball at all, make them earn it. And if I don't think they can, like we talked about, under Mac Jones, they really have a tough time. I mean, they scored 7 points against the Vikings. That game was terrible to watch too. I watched a lot of that. It was gross. So yeah, Mac Jones is going to have a heck of a time, man. Ford Field might end up being a little house of horrors for him. That's my hope.
Yep.
Yes.
So I think you're right, Jacob, about, getting a get right game for Jared Goff. So my thing is early, I want to establish the run, get to some second and third and shorts, and just let Jared Goff let it rip. And just got to get his confidence back with hitting JMO deep. And also want to remind the rest of the league that Goff can't pass it deep to JMO, so we can open up that middle so that, when Sam Laporta comes back. My thing is all about setting up. I don't want to look past this game, but I think we could set up future stuff by showing what we're capable of here. And so that's a Ben Johnson thing, right? We're going to, he's thinking 3 games ahead when he sets up an offensive play, all those trick plays and all that stuff, all that's set up way ahead of time with teams that follow film. So in my opinion, we just need to put the league on notice that we still have JMO and Jared Goff will hit him deep. For whatever happened in that last game, not every team's going to be able to play defense like the Texans. So, we're going to be able to do our thing. You got anything else, Jacob?
Morgan kind of touched on what I was going to say on defense is, we're playing a bottom 10 offense in the league. They're without their starting quarterback. They're potentially without several offensive linemen. We just have to bring the heat and just, don't allow these 30-yard, 40-yard passes. Last week we had a couple, 3rd and 16, 3rd and 12, 3rd and long, and we were giving up, kind of bigger plays then. Just have to limit that and, just bring the heat, bring the pressure. The turnovers are going to come if we get in Mac Jones' face. I'm not worried about a run defense, especially in this game. So I definitely think you just pressure Mac Jones and then we're going to be okay. Just don't go man coverage on Brian Thomas and get beat right away and then give Mac Jones 5 seconds to throw the ball. It's just anybody with that much time in that receiver one-on-one, there's potential that he's going to get deep. And that's what we don't need is a 60-yard touchdown.
Give them hope. With no hope. Squeeze that hope out of them early. I want them
to right away.
I want them to be thinking about Cancun before the half.
Yeah. I want Brian Thomas to have a Calvin Ridley game where,
Yep. There you go. We'll take that.
Looks really good for the first quarter. We don't.
Yeah. No, that was it was so weird because at that game, it was 14-14 at one point in the Titans game that we're referring to. And then by the middle third quarter, I looked at my son. I was like, we could probably go right now if we really wanted to go. But he's like, no, we have to stay for this whole game. And of course I was going to stay. But, that's the way it felt. It was like this game was over early on and Joker's in there. And yeah. And I could see this happening in this game too. I'm with you, Jacob. I think the turnovers are going to happen. I would not be surprised for a punch out. There might be an interception, but I think we're going to get them to fumble, especially when you got a team that's trying to stretch for every inch because they're going to need it to get on this offense. They're going to get careless with the football, and Branch or Davis is going to come in and punch one out. And they seem to like those more than the interceptions. They feel more pride in getting a punch out, and I think they'll get ready for it. Although I tell you what, I'm really rooting for is a Jack Campbell pick. That's what I'm really rooting for. I want to see him.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
That would be good.
He's close, getting lots of PBUs. He's getting his hands on the ball.
He's not getting beat often. He's always, he seems to be right there now. So
technique's looking good. He moves well for a big guy too, man. It's nice. He's a freaky athlete. Good Lord.
Yeah, he had a high RAS score coming out. I think that's and
8th out of
and just had to just took time for him to develop, and he's got a great coach. I mean, Shep. I mean, that's a great room to be in, and part of that is just Shep coaching those guys up. When you get Malcolm Rodriguez, what was he, a 5th or 6th? Was he 6th round pick? Right? So, yeah. I mean, he's a starter on most teams. Malcolm Rodriguez is probably a starter on most teams. Yep.
That was awesome to watch Hard Knocks and see that linebacker room and see what Shep was saying. Just in general, but especially with the stuff with Rodrigo, that was cool.
Yeah, he's the best guy. He's the best guy. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's good, man.
Yeah, that was great.
Yep. All right. Anything else that you got, Jacob?
No, we kind of touched on everything. I mean, the Jaguars, they have a 33% third down conversion rate. That's bottom 5 in the league. And last week, I already said it, but we allowed a few big third down plays that allowed the drives to continue. They're not very good on third down. We just need to make sure that we shut that down quick, and we're going to be fine. Yep. Third and long, and they don't know what to do in that situation. So,
yeah, the only thing that I have on here is their edges are their edge players are probably their strength of their defense. Play action pass and screen plays and stuff like that. Anything we can do to get them to slow down will be optimal, especially if Decker can't go. If we got Skipper out there again, I think we're going to have to utilize all that. They had some really nice screen passes against the Texans. I really want them to see them develop those plays because getting Gibbs in space. And we've even seen Laporta take some nice screen passes that they developed too in this season. So I think they could develop that a little bit better and utilize that. That'll limit their pass rush even more.
Definitely.
Right. It's kind of a short keys to victory because we feel like this is kind of our fourth thought. It's weird being on this side as a Lions fan. We've been in plenty of other games where we're the Jags and we're playing a top team, and we need the miracle to win. We are going to get their best shot, so we have to be aware of that. And they have nothing to lose. They're in last place in their division. They have nothing to lose, so they're going to put it all out there on us. So, and especially Doug Peterson, I agree with you, Morgan. I like Doug Peterson as a coach, and he's just it's in a bad situation, and part of that's his doing, but. He's going to have his guys ready to play,
I think so. You got to, man. Coaching for your job kind of at this point. So,
right. Your livelihood depends on it right now.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. We're going to get into grit picks.
Grit picks.
Jacob, why don't you hit us with how we did last week?
All right. Last week, because the Lions played in prime time, we only picked 2 games. Thursday Night Football, Bengals at Ravens. We both picked the Ravens. They pulled out that win. And then Monday Night Football, Dolphins at Rams. We both picked the Dolphins, and the Dolphins won. So we both went 2 for 2 last week. Overall, I'm leading. I'm 20-8, and you are 18-10.
Mm-hmm.
You've gotten a little bit closer than it was before. So we'll see. The last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of the same picks. So we'll see if it's any different this time.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Commanders at Eagles. We're going to invite Morgan to jump in on this too, so we'll get his opinion on this. Commanders at Eagles. I'm going with the Eagles in this one. I think that they're going to pull this one out. What about you, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a really good Thursday night game. The Commanders are coming off a close loss to the Steelers. They have to go play at Philadelphia in prime time, a very tough place to play. The Eagles' second-ranked defense, rookie Jaden Daniels, their offense is ranked 4th right now in the league. We mentioned it earlier. I don't remember if that was on the pod or before we started recording, but, the Commanders really want this game on the road. But, if they win, they give Philly another loss. It extends our lead on the 1 seed. So it would be great for the Commanders to win, but I do have the Eagles beating them. And I actually think they probably are going to beat them by double digits. Commanders are 28th in the league in rush defense. Saquon and the Eagles are the second best rushing offense. I think that's the key right there, is that they're not going to be able to stop the running attack. What do you think, Morgan?
Yeah, I can see that. That's kind of where I landed too, Jacob. Like, I really like Jaden Daniels. I think that offense is talented, but the defense has still got some holes to be patched up. And tough place to play. Is this Jaden? Yeah, this will be Daniels' first time playing in Philly. So
yeah,
good. Hopefully it's a good game. I like the Commanders to win for the reasons y'all mentioned, but I think it's a tough ask.
Exactly. I'll be pulling for the Commanders to win. It would be cool if they won, but yeah, I'm picking Eagles here. All right, next game. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit got to be happy with. They got to finally they're getting a good game. These are few and far between on Thursday Night Football. Right. It seems like.
True.
I mean, they're going to have Packers Lions later on this season, so that'll be another good one. But yeah, a lot of times these Thursday night games are not marquee matchups. That's for sure.
Even lately, the last couple of seasons, it seems like it's been that way. And I don't understand why, but.
All right, Jacob, you're up. Sunday Night Football, Bengals at Chargers. Who you got in this
All right. Bengals at Chargers. The Chargers are favored in this game by 1.5 points, 1.5. It's funny because the Bengals seem to win the games they're supposed to win, but they always lose the close or difficult games. The Chargers defense has allowed the fewest points in the league right now. The Bengals offense is ranked 6th. So this is one of those good, great offense, great defense game. Traditionally, the defensive team comes out on top. My gut tells me that the Bengals are going to win, but I want to pick Jim Harbaugh on the Chargers. So that's who I'm going with for our grit pick is I'm going with the Chargers in this game. Strictly because that's who I want to win.
Okay, you're going with that. I'm going with the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to win. They always seem to come out, like you said, Jacob, the games that you think they're going to win, they don't win, and then they always win a game where they really shouldn't win. It's just been the MO with this team. Hopefully you can get to Jamar Chase and get a big score. I don't know if T. Higgins is going to play in this game or not. He seems like he's kind of checked out. I don't know. I don't know if anyone's going to give him the big contract that he wants, but I'm going with the Bengals in this one. What about you, Morgan? Who do you think?
Chargers has been playing good ball lately. And I do think the Bengals are up against it. I think they need to win some games, right? Like, what are they sitting at? 5 and
I think 4 and 6, right?
Ooh,
or no, they haven't played that many games.
Yeah, they need to win games. I'm going to go Chargers. I do. They're just hot right now. They're playing well. But that's almost like a pick 'em. I feel like that'll be a good game.
Right.
Excited to watch.
It's a toss up. Chargers are 6-3. Bengals are 4 and 6.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, the Bengals need it worse than the Chargers do, but
then again,
at this time of year, you could start getting in those the team that needs it more. Like that's what I felt about the Dolphins last week with the Rams.
Yes,
the Dolphins. Sometimes that plays into it. So it's kind of why that's one of the major reasons I'm picking the Bengals. But yeah, it's going to be the first 2 games are going to be good. This Monday Night Football game, however, not really thinking this is going to be a good game at all. Texans at Cowboys. I'm up on this one. I'm going to say the Texans. They're going to right the ship on this one. They're going to, the battle for Texas, and they're going to win.
Yeah, they've had a string of bad luck, especially last week with the game against us. So they desperately need this game, especially the interstate against the Cowboys. So I think they're going to try their best to take it out on the Cowboys and really crush them. The Cowboys defense is probably going to slow down the Texans. I think this has potential to be a pretty low-scoring game, but I do think the Texans are going to win.
Yeah, I mean the Cowboys.
Micah's back, right?
Yeah,
Micah's back, right? He played last week.
He played last week. Yep, he's playing.
They can at least rush the passer, but yeah, I'm picking the Texans. And I don't know what the spread is, but I'd probably take the points with the Texans. To be honest with you, I think the Cowboys that is a sinking ship, man. I don't know what.
Right.
It's tough.
Right now, Texans are 7.5 point favorites.
Yeah, I'm taking that.
So I mean that's fair, right?
How would the Cowboys think? We just saw that Houston defense. How is that Cowboy offense going to score any points?
Exactly, right.
Jeez.
They have no rushing offense. They were relying on Dak and CeeDee Lamb, and now you have no Dak.
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be at night, so they don't have to worry about the sun, blocking their eyes at all. So.
Yeah, right. That's so bad.
Stupid, man. Rich idiot.
I saw online they were like they put the curtains up for concerts, but Jerry Jones refuses to do it for the football games.
Rich people are so
supposed to give home field advantage. Yeah, it's supposed to give home field advantage. Your team's 0-4 at home. Okay.
He's so stupid.
All right, but yeah, it is. Oh man, Jerry Jones. When is he ever going to learn? He's never going to learn, man. He just wants to do it his way.
Can he open the curtains when it's facing the opposing team and just close them when the offense is on there?
Ooh,
that's a good question.
Yeah, there would be some for the
some sort of right. I know in Miami they have the sun. Like in Miami, if they play at 1:00, the opposing sideline is the one the sun is baking them, and it's right in their face the whole time, and that's done on purpose, obviously.
Yeah, my brothers and I went to Miami to watch the Lions play down there. And we sat on the Miami side because we had looked ahead and we are like, it would have been so hot. It was really comfortable in the shade, but man, it's roasting in that heat
Yeah.
over
No,
there.
thank you.
Yeah. No.
Right.
All right. Let's get on to our grit guarantee.
It's time for the Grit Guarantee.
Jacob, I'm going to let you start off here. What's your guarantee for this game?
All right, my guarantee this week is that Za'Darius makes an impact right away. Maybe not just himself getting sacks, but I think he's going to cause enough pressure and help the other people enough that the other guys are going to be getting sacks as well. My guarantee this week is that the Lions are going to get at least 3. I'm going to say over 3 sacks.
All right. That's good. Mine is the Lions have a play of 50-plus yards. Either a Gibbs run or J-Mo or someone's going to take it 50-plus yards. And I have a secondary one. If Laporta is out and it looks like he's going to be out, I think Shane Zylstra gets his first catch of the season. That's another one.
Okay.
To go with. So, all right, Morgan, you got anything for us?
I like those. I'm going to go, I like your punch out idea. So I'm going to go with at least one forced fumble, just because
all right.
Nice.
Those numbers do back it up. And I think they're going to be hunting turnovers. These guys, once there's blood in the water, I think that's when DBs and they really can, cause chaos because they're not really respecting the run anymore. And you're just back there trying to make a play. So yeah, I like the punch out one.
Yeah, you're not worried about giving up a couple extra yards, not wrapping up. You're just in there. And then when it's a gang tackle, the last guy comes in there and just,
get your Charles.
I like it. It's a badge of honor with this defense, too, to get a punch out. I really feel. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some pot money in the locker room about getting punch outs.
For sure.
All right, Morgan. We want to thank you again for joining us here and, giving your best take on the Jaguars. It's always great talking to you. You're a cool dude. You're fun to hang out with. Super smart in football, so we appreciate it. Tell the people, remind them where they could find your stuff at.
Oh yeah, appreciate it, guys. Anytime, you can always hit me up. Jason, we got to nail down some time to do film again. It's always tough, man. I feel like football season's gotten so much busier, but I guess that makes sense with what I do. You can find me prideofdetroit.com, Pride of Detroit on YouTube. Myself and Miko Scott do a ton of stuff there. We have like a Hot One stream this Saturday as part of our Movember campaign where we raise a ton of money Saturday at like 7 p.m. So that'll be fun. All kinds of stuff going on down there. We have a live podcast showing coming up in December. More details will be out about that soon in Detroit. So a lot of stuff going on. And yeah, man, appreciate you guys having me on.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, Morgan, you're always super cool to talk to. It's just, you see football like we see it and just like,
just fits right in, man.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
Appreciate y'all.
I don't know what they're paying you over at POD. We'll match Jacob and I's salary. You'll be right at 33%. 33% of zero. 33% of zero is still zero. Sorry.
It's okay. I hear you.
We appreciate you being there for us in our time of need, since we failed to Jacob. I'm going to blame Jacob. He failed to get someone. I've gotten every other interview. Jacob's come up 0, and I failed on this one, but I'm going to blame Jacob. That's what I do.
Hey, I was on the Reddit. I made up for it.
That was a good idea, man, because that's a really good idea. And I don't blame Jags fans and like people like us for not wanting to talk about this game.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, they're not looking forward to it.
No.
All right. All right. For Morgan, I'm Jason. We had Jacob here. It's been fun talking Lions. Hope you guys enjoy this, and go Lions.